Today, I'm doing something a little different. I'll be rebutting mainstream professing Christians on the raging cosmological debate. For some reason, popular mainstream Christian apologists tend to frown upon biblical cosmology, instead opting to side with the secular materialist view that we live on a spinning water ball that defies physics with a sky vacuum, also known as Heliocentrism. First up is Darth Dawkins, a presuppositionalist who is becoming increasingly popular on YouTube and Discord. In this exchange, he just discovered there's a flat earther in his own squad.
Seth, in order to even grant any level of plausibility to flat eartherism, you have to believe that all of the space agencies, okay, are in a giant cabal trying to deceive the world. Okay.
Well, the reason why
everyone who's been to space has been lying.
Simply stating your interlocutor's position in an incredulous tone is not an argument. All he's doing here is expressing his incredulity. That's it. Nothing about this could possibly entail his position. The heliocentric model is true. It indicates Darth is irrationally beginning with the presupposition that large-scale official corruption is not possible, which is a very foolish assumption, particularly for a professing Christian. Even just what I show in this video here is enough to conclude this cabal he's mocking due to immature handling of cognitive dissonance definitely exists and definitely does have a goal of deceiving the world.
What are they going to do when the space tourists start coming back? Okay, we're right on the cusp of space tourism. Okay, Virgin Galactic and other things. Elon Musk. Okay, what are they going to say when these people come back? With their photographs and their testimony of the spherical Earth. What are they going to say? They're lying too?
Well, based off their track record, they'll just push it back another couple of years. They've been saying the same thing for the past 20, 30 years. So at this point, they're kind of untrustworthy.
The flat earthers or the space tourists?
Space tourism.
The fact that Darth even had to ask that question reveals he's never once researched any of this. It's basic material anyone would learn on their first day or two of flat Earth research, that they keep pushing back the dates year after year, decade after decade, and the gullible masses keep buying it.
Oh, you think that you actually think that that's not going to come about?
Based off of their track record and with it getting more.
Oh my God! Do you know what kind of progress that they have made within just a few short years, not being funded by the government?
What have they done?
What has Elon Musk done?
Yes.
Okay, how about rapidly developing rockets, even rockets that can self-land? Okay. And in fact, NASA has even used one of his rockets to lift a payload.
My head is about to explode. How can someone as logically literate as Darth, who understands presuppositionalism as deeply as he does, possibly think that's a rational argument? Even if it's granted to him that private companies have made all the technological progress he wants, nothing about that could possibly entail the heliocentric model is true. It's just an obvious non sequitur fallacy.
Very interesting.
You don't believe that?
I just don't believe it's going to happen based off of the price. Last time I heard, it takes like $50,000 for one ticket to space. Most people can't.
You're not understanding. When I say space tourism, I'm not talking about for the common man. I'm talking about for people who have money to burn. There's a Japanese billionaire who's already set to be one of the first people that goes up as a space tourist. Okay? I'm not talking about the average person. I'm talking about the very elite rich who have money to burn and want to, be able to say that they've been in space.
So the exact same rich elite that flat earthers say are lying to us about outer space. Come on, Darth. It's almost as if some people go completely brain dead when flat Earth comes up, and suddenly they can't think or recognize even the most basic fallacies. Obviously, when your interlocutor's position claims we're being lied to by the elite about space, it's not going to be convincing to argue. Those same elite rich people said they're going to space soon, as your argument for why outer space exists. The argument assumes precisely what is in contention: the existence of outer space.
Now I forget what I said. Oh yeah. Do you know what the XR, what's the Blackbird called? Is it XR71 or XR70?
SR71.
The SR, thank you. The SR70, did you say 1 or 70? SR
71 Blackbird.
Yeah, okay. So the SR71 Blackbird, those guys fly at the very edge of space in those aircraft. Are they all lying?
The narrative changes because if we have a firmament dome covering us, at best they only went to the space below the firmament, the solid covering of the sky.
Oh, but from the at the height that the SR1, do you know what that plane is?
The SR1, no.
SR71. Okay, have you ever seen any of the X-Men movies?
Yes.
You know that big black plane that they show you?
Yes.
Okay, that's a complete bastardization of how it operates. But that's the SR-71. Okay? This thing flies at several thousand miles an hour. Okay? The plane had to be specially designed because it's traveling so fast that the skin of the plane had to be designed in such a way to allow it to expand with the heat. They have to wear spacesuits, okay? And there's been a number of these pilots. They other than astronauts, these guys have flown to such a high level they can clearly see the curvature of the planet. Are they all lying?
He asserted they can clearly see the curvature. Darth is demonstrating here that he doesn't know what his own side claims. I'll just let the top spokesman for his own side do the talking.
If the moon is approximately 50 feet, I think, 30 to 50 feet from here, this would be, to this scale, a mile away. Show us where the International Space Station is, Hubble, etc.
Okay. So if the Earth were actually this size, the International Space Station would be orbiting about a half an inch above the surface. And that dude who jumped out of a perfectly good balloon, what's his name? Felix Baumgartner. He would have been about 2 millimeters above the surface of this globe. That's his edge of space jump. Now, I don't. It's fine. He wants to. I don't have a problem if he does it, but the honesty of it would greatly diminish what I think people thought he was actually doing. And not only that, they made sure to photograph him standing there with a really wide-angle lens, which curves horizontal lines. So in the photo, you see this curvature of Earth's surface, and he said, "Wow, he's in space. Look at that." No, he's not. At that height, you don't see the curvature of the Earth if you are 2 millimeters above this beach ball. You just don't. That stuff is flat. That stuff is flat. And then I showed examples of wide-angle lenses curving horizontal. I tweeted that.
You did.
But I don't want to be a spoiled, curmudgeon or anything. I just wanted to put. There's so much to actually be impressed with in the universe. I don't want you to be distracted by things that are not. That's all I'm trying to say.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I hold it?
You can hold it.
Can I hold her?
That can be affected by barrel distortion, pin cushion distortion.
Oh, please. Wow, you are nuts. Okay?
Earth is a dome.
You have to believe all these people are lying.
This is a strawman fallacy. Flat earthers don't claim all these people are lying. A vast majority of people are just deceived exactly like Darth is. When fully understood, there are only 1,000 to 2,000 people who are knowingly in on the lie, and those are the people at the very top of the web of secret societies, who even lie to their own lower-ranking members. It's surprising Darth doesn't know about tactics like intense compartmentalization, non-disclosure contracts, and all the other ways of keeping information from leaking among large populations. We already know the government successfully keeps information classified, as does the mafia. What makes people like Darth think similar tactics couldn't be used by a web of secret societies? There's nothing stopping them.
Oh, please. Wow, you are nuts. Okay?
This is a dome.
You have to believe all these people are lying.
And that's justified. You know why? Because of their common symbology.
You believe this?
Because of the laser test and infrared and my common experience.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right.
The Vector, NASA's official logo. If you've ever looked at NASA's official logo, both their official insignia and their official seal, you'll see that the most prominent object in the seal is a red swooshing object. They call that the chevron or the vector. If you ask NASA's Public Affairs Office, this symbology is featured so heavily in their insignia and seal, they'll give you what really amounts to the standard facile cover story for the unilluminated. They'll tell you that that is a representation of a hypersonic wing design from the 1950s, which was the time the logo was created. Not exactly the case. Someone might want to ask the Russian Federal Space Agency, Roscosmos, that was formed in 1992, why they chose that same logo. And while you're at it, you can go ask the Chinese, who formed their space agency in 1996, why in the world they're using a hypersonic wing design from the 1950s as their official logo. Then you can ask the Japanese, the South Koreans, Taiwanese, Malaysia, Mexico, Iran, all of these countries, even Bulgaria. They all utilize the vector symbology in their space agency logos for their national space agencies. It gets even deeper. You can go look at the individual manned program patches for NASA. The Mercury program, for example, a blatant use of covert symbology. In every logo dealing with the Mercury program, you'll see what looks like a number 7 in their logo. And again, NASA's official story is that they put this number 7 there so that they could pay homage to the original 7 Mercury astronauts. Kind of forgetting the fact that only 6 Mercury astronauts actually flew into space because number 7 never did. Deke Slayton had a heart problem, so he didn't get to go up. So there were only 6 Mercury astronauts. Yet there's a 7 in every single logo. That's in the official mission or official program insignia for Mercury, as well as the 6 individual mission patches carry this logo. And it carries on to the Space Shuttle program. If you look at the Apollo logo has a big letter A in it. At least that's what they want you to believe, but it's not. Again, that's just a simple way of explaining away the inclusion of this vector symbology in the logo. If you go to the Space Shuttle program, the original Space Shuttle STS program patch is a triangular patch that, again, hides the use of the chevronic vector symbology. And that also goes for many of the STS-specific mission patches. Every single one of the International Space Station expedition patches carry the vector symbology. The Russian Mir space station used the vector symbology. That was their official logo. And you can even go deeper and look at military-industrial complex companies. Look at the logo on a company like Lockheed Martin, 2 vectors. The X-Prize logo, Ames Research Labs, U.S. Space Command. When you get into the military realm, the United States Space Command, their official logo is the vector symbol. And when you look at the military's individual space-specific programs, all of them deal with vector symbology in their official insignias. And the question really becomes, who or what are these people paying homage to? And the truth, quite frankly, is out of this world. And the question really becomes, who or what are these people paying homage to?
And the truth, quite frankly, is out of this world.
So Neil Armstrong was lying, huh?
Neil dot A is alien backward. It's like they're lying to us in front of our faces.
You believe Neil Armstrong and Buzz Armstrong were lying?
Because they're Masons. And Masons hate God. And
Wait a minute, whoa. Are you serious? Are you serious?
Yes.
Okay, you just told me all that I needed to know about you.
I laughed really hard the first time I heard this. How dare anyone question the cosmological theory that Darth Dawkins believes? What a crock. This is the same man who maniacally screams at atheists all day, every day, for refusing to engage in rational debate. The same man who berates even respectful atheist debaters like they're human scum for not immediately understanding complex philosophy. He even does this to teenagers, but all it takes to get this 60-year-old man to act precisely like those atheist teenagers is you simply question his cosmological theory. For some reason, that's off limits for Darth. So, he resorts to the same fallacious pseudo-skepticism he screams at atheist teenagers for. You can tell a lot about a person's true psychological and spiritual state by how they handle cognitive dissonance. I'll just leave it at that.
Man who went up to everyone who flew to the moon and asked them to put their hand on the
Your
Bible.
microphone is very weak. We can hardly hear you.
So basically, it's a combination of distorting lenses and a poor understanding of perspective.
So Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and all the other astronauts in the space program, especially those men who putatively walked on the Earth, they're all lying in a grand lie because they're Masons?
In some cases, it appears to be God-hating, creator-hating Masons lying with their...
But you believe this?
I already said I did.
Okay, all right, that's all I need to know.
I have a question.
If you're not
does the dome have to?
That's fine.
No,
do you believe it's a dome because of the Bible and what it says in Genesis?
Sundogs and parhelions, which look like the sun shining off of a surface.
Okay, all right.
That.
Go ahead, Taylor.
So it comes from the Bible. Does it come from the Bible? Is that why you believe it's a dome?
Partially, yeah.
No,
we also have elves and sprites.
That is not in the Bible.
The Bible doesn't talk about
it. Firmament to divide the waters from the waters.
But we don't know precisely what that is. Okay.
What he means to say is, I don't know exactly what that is. Of all people, Darth, as a presuppositionalist, should know better than to make universal declarations in which he declares everyone else can't know something just because he doesn't. That's a common fallacious rebuttal that atheists use against presup. They argue, I don't know what the ultimate metaphysical grounding is, and neither does anyone else. Darth hates it and calls out the fallacy then. So why is it that Darth can't recognize the same fallacy in this scenario?
This is how I love it. Listen to me. I love how people bastardize the biblical text. Okay, we don't know precisely what that entails, Physicist.
Wow, he's doing it again. He's mirroring common fallacies atheists use against presup yet again. He just admitted that he doesn't know what the text entails. If he doesn't know what the correct interpretation is, then how can he possibly know if others are bastardizing the text? He can't. And since he's arguing for a conclusion based on his own lack of knowledge or understanding, he's committing a textbook appeal to personal incredulity fallacy.
We know that it's solid since the sun, moon, and stars were set within it.
You do not.
But
solid in which sense? Wow, you are really.
Rakia has a connotation of something beaten out, solid. Like.
All right, I'm not going to discuss it any further. You're Looney Tunes. I don't indiscriminately insult people because they merely disagree with me.
To give credit where credit is due, Darth is very knowledgeable when it comes to presup and creationism. He's an intellectually capable guy. That's why it's so baffling when he engages in all the same fallacious pseudo-skepticism. He so despises atheists for whenever flat Earth comes up. It also exposes he doesn't know the Bible anywhere near as well as he thinks he does. But Darth isn't the only Christian who has this issue. It's so common, it's expected among popular mainstream Christians. Up next is Nicholas Bowling, a popular street preacher on YouTube.
But he said it. So I believe what he said. So man took things into his own hands, and the Bible says, how you doing, sir?
The Bible also says that the world's flat. That's not true.
That the world's flat?
Yeah, look it up.
Show me it. Where's it at?
It's all over.
I've never seen it.
Circle of the earth. Job. Say the world's flat.
He said in Job, it says the world's round. So I think you need to check your facts, sir.
What we saw in that last clip is common behavior among popular mainstream Christians when reacting to claims of flat Earth being taught in the Bible. His reaction was textbook pseudo-skepticism, as he hand-waved dismissed the man's correct claim prior to proper investigation, and even projected that it's actually the man who needs to check his facts, which is gaslighting. Why could he not simply be honest and say he doesn't know, and that he would look into it? He shouldn't be blindly believing his friend on the fly like that. My buddy says it's not a rational or convincing argument. But worse, cursory research shows his buddy didn't even know which book of the Bible he was appealing to. It's the book of Isaiah, not the book of Job, which says God sits above the circle of the earth.
He sits enthroned above the circle of the earth, and its people are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens like a canopy and spreads them out like a tent to live in.
Notice it refers to Earth as a circle, not a sphere. The definition of the word circle is a round plane figure whose boundary, the circumference, consists of points equidistant from a fixed point. The center, so concisely, a circle is a round plane figure. Now, to be extra clear, let's look at the definition of the word plane. As an adjective, it's defined as completely level or flat. As a noun, it's defined as a flat surface on which a straight line joining any 2 points on it would wholly lie. For most viewers, I probably didn't need to define these words, because we all know what a circle is, and it's not a ball. In fact, this is the Hebrew word used in this verse. It's pronounced chug, and it literally translates to circle, circuit, or compass. In all of these words, none of them conjure up an image of a ball. Furthermore, if the earth were a ball and God wished to communicate that here, then it would have required using this Hebrew word, which is pronounced dur. The Hebrew definition for this word is a circle, pile, or ball. Isn't that interesting? If the shape of the earth was intended to be conveyed as a ball, then this Hebrew word would have been used, as it was earlier on in the same book of Isaiah.
He will roll you up tightly like a ball and throw you into a large country. There you will die, and there the chariots you were so proud of will become a disgrace to your master's house.
So, we know that earlier in the same book of Isaiah, this Hebrew word was used to describe a ball or spherical shape. But when describing the earth in Isaiah 40:22, we see that this word, which only describes a flat or level surface, is used instead.
He sits enthroned above the circle of the earth, and its people are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens like a canopy and spreads them out like a tent to live in.
This is a very significant point, and entails that, when properly understood, this verse not only fails to support the globe, but explicitly supports flat Earth instead. But what's so interesting is that virtually all popular mainstream Christians appeal to this verse to support their belief in Heliocentrism, despite the fact it only takes a minute of research into the original Hebrew to learn it's actually a flat Earth verse instead. Here's Todd Friel from Wretched doing it.
The earth is flat? The Bible doesn't explicitly say the earth is flat or round, although it does allude to its spherical shape. Job 26:7 says God hangs the earth on nothing, and Isaiah 40:22 says he sits above the circle of the earth.
Wow, they're flat out lying to your faces, people. Just look at these verses. Neither of them even remotely allude to Earth's sphericity. I already covered why the second verse actually supports flat Earth explicitly, but the first verse also doesn't actually say anything he claimed. It says that God hangs the earth on nothing. But check out what flat Earth looks like. Notice how the flat Earth hangs over nothing. But of course, none of these popular mainstream Christians bother to research even the basics of what they're talking about on issues like this. So in both verses, he's just begging the question fallaciously by reading his presupposition of heliocentrism into the text to arrive at conclusions not even remotely supported by what's actually written. But check out what he claims next.
If you think the Bible says the earth is flat, you put that in the text. You did not pull that from the text.
Unbelievable. Could the projection be any more transparent? I used to think behavior like this was deliberate shilling, but now I realize most of these people aren't even consciously aware of what they're doing. Once you understand the psychology behind it all, it becomes crystal clear how Satan could pull off a deception this massive, with very few people needing to be consciously in on it. First, you've got to understand what projection is and how it works. Click here to see another video in which I cover that. Second, any psychologist will tell you, projection is most common when deeply held beliefs are questioned, particularly if indoctrination causes said beliefs to be taken for granted since a young age. Third, and most importantly, you've got to understand that the more narcissistic tendencies a person has, the more likely it is that he will unwittingly project as a defense mechanism to cognitive dissonance. Satan took note of all this, and he set up societies such that only the most narcissistic people, those who prioritize worldly selfish goals over truth, can possibly make it or become famous. Satan knows such people won't genuinely care if flat Earth is true, nor will they even think through what the entailments would be if it is. Their only care will be, what stance do I take to get the most subscribers? That's it. Because narcissists simply don't care deeply enough about anything other than feeding their egos with more subscribers, more money, and more power.
That God's a he, but he said it. So I believe what he said.
The Bible also says that the world's flat.
That the world's flat?
Yeah, look it up.
Show me it. Where's it at?
It's all over.
So I think you need to check your facts, sir.
In this next clip, we see Andrew Wilson engaging in a similar intellectual error that's widespread among popular mainstream Christians. Check this out.
Also, I'm just going to say that Naomi is what I call sex denialist. And this is much like flat Earth, this type of thing. Naomi's a sex denialist, and this needs to be addressed as it's a massive conspiracy, and it's not backed by science. It's not even backed by sociology. So with that, I will turn the floor over in my opening statement, as those are kind of the things that I'd like to address.
Notice how he falsely equates sex denialism with flat Earth, as if both demographics are equivalent with their science denialism. The reason worldly Christians do this in debates is a combination of ignorance combined with arrogance. It's ignorant because he's starting out with the false presupposition that the heliocentric model qualifies as science, which it objectively doesn't. Click here to see renowned scientists explaining why it isn't science. And it's arrogant because he's prioritizing his public image over genuine truth-seeking by repeating fallacious slogans he's heard secular debaters use. He's clearly trying to cater to the status quo, with his sub and view counts in mind. If you're not convinced popularity is the priority, then why does he introduce himself like this?
Thank you so much for your introductory statement. We're going to hand it over to Andrew Wilson for 10 minutes, so thank you for being here, Andrew, and the floor is yours.
You're welcome. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Andrew Wilson. I am the host of the one and only Crucible, the fastest growing debate channel on the internet. James, just in case you didn't know.
And why does he rebut critiques with arguments like, I got more views, therefore I'm right, while acting like he genuinely believes that was a knockdown rebuttal?
That's also not how myself or the commenters on those videos remember it.
Yes, it is.
That's not how myself or the commenters on those videos remember
Well,
it.
Nominal Naomi got obliterated on that topic, and if you'd like the video evidence, I've got 7 times the views that Nominal Naomi had, and Nominal Naomi backed out of a second debate with me. Just letting you know. Just letting you know.
Next, let's take a look at one of the strongest flat earth verses, followed by the extremely worldly mainstream Christian Mike Winger's laughable attempt at a rebuttal to it.
Have you ever given orders to the morning, or shown the dawn its place, that it might take the earth by the edges and shake the wicked out of it? The earth takes shape like clay under a seal. Its features stand out like those of a garment.
This verse is one of the clearest I've seen in favor of flat earth over heliocentrism. The author has us picture God grabbing the earth by the edges as if it were a garment, and he was shaking out the bugs, and then it directly says that the earth takes shape like clay under a seal. Both are very flat images, and indisputably so. In fact, it's so clear that both images are flat that even Mike Winger doesn't try to dispute that. Instead, watch as he responds, just like atheists typically do when they're backed into a corner. He dodges the issue completely with irrelevant rabbit trails and pointless semantical bickering, in which he attempts to create the illusion he addressed the substance of what's in contention, when anyone with a brain can tell he dodged it.
So here it is. This is from Dean Odell, and he's going to draw from the idea that the book of Job is describing the nature of earth. And look at his conclusions, and then we'll talk about what is wrong about that.
In the King James, it says, it is turned as clay to the seal, and they stand out as a garment. Now, I have read over that many times, and that's a problem. A lot of times we just read over stuff and we don't look it up. So I saw this verse pointed out by someone, so I got my Strong's Hebrew, concordance with the Hebrew dictionary, and I looked up the word turned. It doesn't mean to spin. It means it's changed. I tell people that it means it's changed, like I would change, I would change potatoes into mashed potatoes. You change them into something else. And then it says where it says it's turned or it's changed as clay to the seal. The Hebrew word there for seal means signet ring. And so what would happen was in the old days that the kings or governors or leaders would have this special ring that identified them. And what they would do when they seal letters or scrolls, they would drop some wax or some clay on top of them, and then they would press them down flat with that signet ring. So when God was talking about the earth and how he formed it, the word picture he gives in Hebrew is that it was changed as clay to the signet ring, plastic, pushed down flat. And when that happens too, it causes an upturned edge. It causes a border around it. And you look at any seal, there's going to be a border around that pressed down, piece of wax or clay or whatever it is.
Right. Okay, so what you guys can see here is they're saying, hey, this passage in Job, when it describes clay and a signet ring, it's describing the cosmological design of the earth. That's the whole point. That's the whole point here, right? That's what he's getting at. And so he quotes Job 38:14. I don't know if you noticed this. This is a misquote. They misquoted Job 38 here. He quoted it correctly earlier, and then he misquotes it in this clip from the video. There's a word missing. There is a word missing, a very important word missing from this quote for some reason in their video. I don't know if it was deliberate. I don't think so, but it's missing. So he says, hey, it's like a signet. Okay, here's actually a piece of clay that a signet was pushed against from ancient Israel, right? This is kind of an important one, a recent discovery that's pretty important about verifying kings of Israel, because we have good evidence to support the reality that there were these ancient kings of Israel. At any rate, that's the seal. And so I get it, but there's a problem. almost no translations translate this as signet ring. He says it should be translated as signet ring, right? It's just, he says it's really a signet ring. No.
It makes no difference which translation is used, seal or signet ring, because both words describe a necessarily flat surface. So watch as Winger obfuscates and distracts from what's actually in contention, which is whether this verse supports flat Earth or the heliocentric model, by narrowing his focus to this completely irrelevant issue, which, even if granted to him fully, would make no difference at all in this debate.
It's really not to be translated that way, and that's why almost nobody does translate it that way. So here's the same resource I used earlier, Dictionary of Biblical Languages. And here's what they say under the word seal. Seal, right? You could look it up yourself. It's 2597. That's the entry point. It's the Strong's number 2368 if you want to look up Strong's. Strong's, though, is not a great resource. I'll talk about that in a minute. It's not bad. It's just not nearly as great as people think it is. At any rate, it's a seal, signet, an implement used as a sign of one's personal official identification, marked by impressing in clay or wax, worn on a cord around the neck or on the hand. Okay, seal or signet. Now, you might not notice this. Seal and signet are not the same thing, right? So look at the note, and I highlighted this. The note at the end, it says, note, it's usually a cylinder seal design, though if on the hand, then a signet ring. So if it talks about a seal on the hand, it's a signet ring. Otherwise, it's likely it's a cylinder design. What is a cylinder design? Well, it's one of these. Ancient seals, we have lots and lots of them that we found. They're these tiny little things, and they would probably fit. If you have a big hand, you could probably put the seal in your fist and hide it. It's that small. So this seal, which is on the left part of your screen, it's a cylinder. What's on the right part of your screen is clay. And what they would do is they'd take the seal and they'd roll it over the clay, and then it would take different shape. That's what the verse is talking about in the book of Job. Here's another example of a cylinder seal. This one's green, but you can just see how like the intricate little, they do a reverse image in the seal and then they just roll it over. And this was very typical. There's another example. There's another example for you there. Now, to support his case, there's something fishy going on, because to support his case, Dean Odell, what he does is he says, I went to Strong's and Strong's tells me this is a signet ring.
Notice he's still going on, incessantly, about whether it's a seal or signet ring when it doesn't matter, because both are flat surfaces.
And he tries to use Strong's, which is a Greek and Hebrew resource that we have. I got one here, right? This is Strong's. This is everybody's first Greek and Hebrew resource, right? And it's a big fat book, and you can look up the numbers and all that. I've got it here. I have two different versions I have as well, digitally. But he says that he goes to Strong's, and it says signet ring. Okay, that would make it the ring version, not the bracelet or the cylinder version I showed you. But when you actually look up Strong's, what does it say? This is Strong's. Okay, this is on the screen for you. It says that it occurs 14 times, and the AV, the authorized version, King James, translates it as signet 9 times and seal 5 times. And then it gives you the definitions: seal, signet, signet ring. Strong's doesn't tell you what it is in Job. It just says it has these different translations, and it has different ways of, being rendered in the English: signet or signet ring or seal. Strong's doesn't say what Dean Odell wants it to say. I don't know why he's saying it does. I don't understand this. Look it up on your own. Go ahead. Strong's doesn't say that.
Wow. Winger is piling layer upon layer of fallacious reasoning now. Again, it's a red herring fallacy to bicker over whether it should be translated as a seal or a signet ring in the first place, as both are flat surfaces. So that's completely irrelevant in this context. But even within his own red herring fallacy, Winger is piling on yet another fallacy, a composition division fallacy. Winger just showed us that Strong's says the most common translation is a signet ring by almost double the runner-up, a seal. So it's fallacious for Winger to conclude Odell is wrong, to say it should be translated as a signet ring, just because Strong's also says there are other less common ways it has been translated, does not entail Odell is wrong to say it should be translated as a signet ring.
Now, there might be an old version of Strong's that I've never seen that has an errors in it, because they've updated it over the years. It's pretty old. So maybe they fixed an error there, in which case he needs to get a new version.
The only error is on your end, Winger. Your own source that you're showing us confirms this. It seems Winger just wants to create the illusion he's supposedly correcting the flat earther about something. Anything at all, no matter how irrelevant it is. But in truth, he's merely confusing himself by piling fallacy upon fallacy, as if he thinks combining invalid arguments together somehow makes a valid and sound argument.
That's always a possibility. But there's more problems. That was just the first problem, okay?
What? More problems? He hasn't justified that there are any problems yet, for crying out loud.
It's probably a cylindrical seal that Job is talking about in Job 38.
Even if we fully grant him his favorite translation of a cylindrical seal, and even if we ignore that his own source says that's nowhere near the most common translation, his argument still fails. The verse in question says that the earth takes shape like clay under a seal. The clay is what represents the earth, not the seal. And the clay tablets are flat, not spherical, as Winger himself showed us.
The second problem is the missing word. Okay, I'm going to put this on the screen again for you. Job 38:14, this is what Dean Odell puts up there. This is what probably flat earth people have seen. This video has had a lot of views, hundreds of thousands of views, the video I'm talking about here, the Dean Odell one. But if I go to Job 38:14, do you notice the word that's missing? Let me see. I'll go to you in just directly in the Bible here. This is the ESV, which is not going to be much different than most other versions here. It is changed.
That crosses the line of overt intellectual dishonesty.
Which is not going to be much different than most other versions here.
The other versions translate it as take shape, which is an enormous difference in a debate about how the Bible describes the shape of Earth's surface, especially when you hear his argument, which relies completely on this cherry-picking fallacy.
It is changed like clay under the seal. It is changed. It's the word changed. Okay, the word change is really important here. It's really important here because we need to know when it's changed, right? This change is not like the earth was originally a blob and God, when he created it, did that. No.
Notice his argument wouldn't even be intelligible with the other translation, which says that the earth takes shape like clay under a seal. That's probably why he lied about it.
Which is not going to be much different than most other versions here.
And no, that's not just an honest mistake. Bible study is his job. It's how he makes a living. He is fully aware of the problem, which is why he lied. But more importantly, the psychological projection is off the charts, because he's now doing precisely what he falsely accused Dean Odell of earlier. He's cherry-picking translations to suit an agenda. And unlike in his false accusation, where all available translations describe flat surface, so it doesn't matter which is used, the way Winger is cherry-picking actually renders his argument invalid. That's why he lied about it.
The context to Job, and now we will zoom out and look at two more verses to get context. We'll see it has nothing to do with the, physical cosmology of Earth. It says here in verse 12, "Have you commanded the morning since your days began, and caused the dawn to know its place, that it," that would be the dawn, the morning, "might take hold of the skirts of the earth, and the wicked be shaken out of it." It, here, being the earth, right, is changed like clay under the seal, and its features stand out like a garment. It's describing sunrise.
Yet again, even if we fully grant his point, it would have no relevance because there are sunrises on both sides of the debate. And even if we grant that the preceding verses refer to a sunrise, that doesn't change the fact it's describing Earth as flat. Both images, Earth being grabbed by the edges with the wicked shaken out of it, and Earth taking shape like clay under a seal, are explicitly flat images, and there's no way to dispute that. Which is why Winger has to resort to these irrelevant rabbit trails and linguistic fallacies.
Right, just like these pictures of, let me put one up for you again, of these cylinders, how the light and the shadows on the clay, they now show contours, whereas before it was a flat piece of clay that had no contours. Now it has contours.
He just said it himself. He said that before it was just a flat piece of clay, but now the sunrise gives the flat clay contours.
Whereas before it was a flat piece of clay that had no contours. Now it has contours.
This is classic. He is even describing Earth as flat in his own irrelevant argument.
The idea is that as the sun rises, that the Earth gains contours, and all of a sudden it's more has depth. At nighttime, it's just you can't see all the bumps and everything on the ground. It's too dark. As the sun comes up, all the contours come up, and especially in the morning, these strong, stark shadows get cast all over the land. That's all it's saying.
That's all it's saying. What? This is hilarious. Apparently the mental gymnastics are so severe, he's having delusions that the subsequent verses about a sunrise are all it actually says, and the verses just before that which explicitly describe Earth as flat. You know, the verses he just spoke about at great length. Well, they're not actually there anymore. They just disappeared from the Bible as his focus shifted to the next verses, about sunrises, apparently. This is laughable. The way some people handle cognitive dissonance is downright comical.
This change happens every day. Dean wants to use it, and some flat earth people think they can use it to say that the Earth has a bumpy ridge around it like a clay signet ring, like clay has when it has a signet ring pushed down on it. But that's not the point at all.
He never justified that it's not the point at all. He just arbitrarily decided to use the less common seal translation instead. And again, he goes right back to the silly linguistic fallacy I already invalidated earlier. Even if his point is fully granted, and we use the uncommon translation of a seal instead of the more common translation of a signet ring, it still describes Earth as flat either way. How can he not see this?